Long before many of the great empires you know, the Indian subcontinent was this incredible mosaic of powerful, ambitious kingdoms. But one was going to outplay, outfight, and outlast all the others to create the very first blueprint for an Indian empire. So let's get into the story of Magadha.
I mean, really think about that. How do you do it? You're surrounded by rivals, everyone wants what you have, and you're basically starting from zero. So where do you even begin to build something that lasts?
Well, our story kicks off right here, around the 6th century BCE, and as you can see, this was not a quiet place. The subcontinent was a crowded stage with 16 major kingdoms, the Mahajanapadas, all jostling for power. Every single one of them was a contender, and every one of them wanted to be king of the hill.
So you have to ask, how did these big kingdoms even pop up in the first place? It wasn't an accident, that's for sure. It was more like a perfect storm, a recipe really, with 3 key ingredients that completely changed the game.
First up, the most foundational ingredient, the one that literally let them reshape the earth beneath their feet, iron. What's so amazing is how this one single technology just snowballed. Suddenly, with iron axes, you could clear the super dense forests of the Ganja plains. With iron plows, you could farm that rich soil like never before. This led to a huge agricultural boom, a food surplus. And what does a food surplus get you? A bigger population. And what do you need to manage a bigger population? You guessed it, a bigger, more organized state.
Okay, so you've got all this extra food. What happens next? Well, our second ingredient falls right into place. A booming economy, all thanks to trade and the rise of brand new cities.
Now, we're not talking about just trading with the next village over. This was the big time. We're seeing long-distance trade routes and, crucially, the introduction of coins, which just threw gasoline on the fire of commerce. This boom led to what historians call the second urbanization, with bustling cities popping up all over. And cities, well, they need rules. They need defense, they need tax collectors, they need all the machinery of a proper state.
But here's the thing. Technology and trade, they're not enough on their own. The final ingredient, and you could argue it's the most important one, was a total revolution in how people saw the world and their place in it.
This is the key. It was a huge psychological shift. People's main identity changed from their tribe, their jana, to the land they lived on, their janapada. It's a move from loyalty to your bloodline to loyalty to your territory. At the exact same time, you have these radical new ideas like Buddhism and Jainism taking root in the cities, challenging all the old ways of thinking. The whole society was primed for a new kind of centralized power.
Okay, so the ingredients are all there. We've got the iron, we've got the cities, we've got the new mindset. The stage was now set for basically a continental Game of Thrones. So, let's meet the players.
16 major players entered the arena. From the mountains in the northwest all the way to the deltas in the east, every single one was a serious contender. Let's take a look at the game board.
This list just gives you a taste of how crowded and competitive it was. You had absolute powerhouses like Kashi, famous for its wealth, and Gandhara, a cultural hub. It was a true chessboard of rival kingdoms. But one name, as you can see, was about to change the game entirely: Magadha.
So that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Out of all these tough, ambitious kingdoms, why Magadha? How did they pull it off? Well, it turns out they had a few, let's call them unfair advantages.
You see, a typical kingdom back then, yeah, they might have good land and a solid army, but Magadha was playing a different game. They had this perfect combination of strategic geography, almost endless resources, and some truly disruptive military innovations that nobody else could match.
First off, their geography was a defender's dream. Their early capital, Rajgir, was literally ringed by 5 hills, a natural fortress. Their next capital, Pataliputra, was a water fort, sitting right where major rivers met. This made them incredibly hard to attack and gave them chokehold control over the river highways of trade.
And then there were the resources. Magadha was sitting right on top of a treasure trove of iron ore. That meant better weapons and more of them. Better farm tools, too. You combine that with the ridiculously fertile soil of the Gange Plain, and you've got a self-fueling economic and military juggernaut.
But they had one more advantage: a secret weapon. Something that struck absolute terror into their enemies and was a complete game-changer on the ancient battlefield.
Elephants. That's right. Magadha was the first to use war elephants on a massive scale. Sourced from the forests right there, these were the tanks of the ancient world. They could smash through enemy lines, trample soldiers, and just create utter chaos.
No one else had an answer for them. It was a checkmate move.
So, with all these advantages locked in, it was now up to a series of ambitious and often pretty ruthless rulers to hammer all these pieces together into a real, lasting empire. And this story plays out over 3 major dynasties. It starts with the Haryankas, who laid the groundwork. They were followed by the Shishunigas, who expanded the borders. And finally, the Nandas, who took the whole project to its absolute peak.
The whole project really gets going with a father and son who had totally different playbooks. You have Bimbisara, the diplomat, who cleverly used marriage alliances to expand his influence. And then you have his son, Ajatashatru, who took a different path. He seized the throne from his father and then just went on a brutal, aggressive campaign of conquest, swallowing up his rivals with pure military might.
But the real culmination of all this was under the Nanda dynasty. Its founder, Mahapadmananda, is often called the first empire builder of India. He systematically crushed the old ruling classes and unified a vast territory under one single centralized power. This was the first time you could really look at the map and see an empire.
So this was way more than just one kingdom winning a war. The rise of Magadha was a fundamental turning point. The age of small competing states was over. The age of empire in India had officially begun.
And really, that's what we're left with. Magadha wrote the playbook for building an empire in this part of the world. Control your geography, own the key resources, and innovate faster than everyone else. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much of that ancient formula still decides who wins and who loses in the world today?